tournament began in style. The first match was between New Zealand and Italy. It produced one of the great moments in the history of the Rugby World Cup.
I was always going to score, and I think that's an attitude everyone should have. You know, and then if I didn't score, well, at least I had a go. But that day it just went well. But I'd done that 20 times that year and not scored. But unless you take off with the intention of getting where you want to go, you'll never get there.
I think that was important because it was iconic. It was iconic of the type of rugby we wanted to play. And when you see things on television after the match and you see that wonderful try, you think, hey, that's us, that's the way we play. The whole sense of no boundaries and just enjoy it and run with the ball and we could be this extraordinary team, I think was summed up by that try because it was such an extraordinary try.
New Zealand went on to rout the Italians. It was an ominous statement of intent.
After the first game, there was only going to be one winner. I think the difference in standard between New Zealand and every other side in the world at that time was substantial.
After coasting through the first round, New Zealand faced their first real test against Scotland in the quarter-finals.
So that was the first of the knockout phase, and we had huge respect for Scotland. And we weren't ready to go home. And you know, once you enter that stage, you have a bad day at the office, you can go home. That was a big day, a lot of nervous guys that day, it was a big build-up.
Patrick throws, again Michael Jones burst away. Right on there to Gary Witt. Gary Witt's never scored in an international, that's Fitzpatrick the hooker.
Nervous they may have been, but the All Blacks stretched away after a tight first half for a big victory over the Scots.
Kirk Pirret bumps all the way along the line to Stanley. This is the full-back Gallagher. That's the try that seals the match for New Zealand.
Australia were almost as comfortable in their victory over Ireland to book a semi-final with France, winners over Fiji in the last 8. The last quarter-final was a low-quality match between England and Wales.
Play goes on, 7, and the Sims to Webb. Harrison losing it forward though, he's having his shocker.
If you think back to that awful quarter-final between England and Wales, which was the worst match of the tournament, it showcased home nations rugby for all the wrong reasons. I think then you compared that to the semi-final that France and Australia played, and you realised there were sort of, if you like, 3 teams who are starting to move into a new era of rugby, New Zealand, France and Australia, and the home nations just had to do something. They had to start playing.
Wales went through to play the All Blacks. But before that match, Australia would host France in the first semi-final at Concord Oval in Sydney.
It's amazing when you look back at it now and you look how popular Rugby World Cup is and how difficult it is and expensive to get a ticket to a major game. I mean, I think at that much unloved Concord Oval, where that game was played, I think the capacity was about 22,000, and I think there was about 4,000 empty seats, which gives you an indication of how the game has grown over the last 2 decades.
The fans who did buy a ticket were in for a treat.
The match against Australia was just incredible. Certainly one of the best matches I've ever played with the French team. Every 10 years or so there's a game like that one.
After Sella glided over to give France the advantage, Australia immediately struck back, with David Campisi breaking the world try-scoring record for the hosts. The team still couldn't be separated after 80 minutes, and the match went to extra time.
Then the try at the end was just mad. The ball came out to me, and I kicked upfield. Then Laurier turns up, this big second rower, giving support in extra time. I don't know where he came from. He ploughs into Campisi. We win the ball back, and play goes right. Then Berbizier passes to me, and I'm all alone, surrounded by wallabies. I just throw the ball out, and Rodriguez picks it up and finds Serge Blanco in full flight, who scores in the corner.
I actually remember the situation, and you know, I mean, you look back and say what we should have done and what should have happened. You know, Serge Blanco was a great player, great finisher. I mean, and he was in the right place at the right time, and that basically sealed it for the French.
It was about much more than just that try. It was really about a whole system of play, a whole approach to the game that was repaid on that particular day by that try. And it wasn't just Serge Blanco's score, it was a try for the whole French team.
At the end of the day, they probably they saved us from the embarrassment of getting smashed by the All Blacks at Eden Park, because what the All Blacks did in '87, they put daylight between themselves and the rest of the world rugby, and you know, they went on to beat us by about 15 points in the one-off Bledisloe later that year. We wouldn't have won the final, so you know, it's great that they got to that final.
The second semi-final in Brisbane the next day was decided much more quickly.
All it took was 10 minutes, and we were so precise, we were so fast, the set pieces were going so well, and we just played with that sort of joie de vivre of it's a semi-final of the World Cup, but we knew we were going to win, and we were playing great rugby, and we just wanted to stay out there as long as possible so we could play rugby.
The All Blacks were heading home to Auckland for the final.
It was the first time that the people of New Zealand had come together and really supported us as a nation. And my lingering moment will be when we went to go out to get on the bus to go to the game. There was probably somewhere like 500 or 600, maybe even more people just cheering the guys onto the bus, and I knew then that it was going to take a hell of an effort from France to beat us.
At Eden Park, the French team gathered together during their national anthem, seeking another inspired performance.
You know, I think the important thing that day was maybe not winning, but for us to tell each other that we loved each other, and that the whole adventure at that World Cup had brought us closer together, and we would remain that close until the end of our days.
Some of the team were crying. It was perhaps too emotional, but it was a beautiful moment, and we'll never forget it.
Following a tight first half, New Zealand seized control shortly after the break.
Jones came up the line there to make the jump there. That's unusual. Taylor now. Stanley again. He's gone for the crash ball all day. Kirk. Fox. Jones. Kirk.
The moment that I went over the line, I knew in my bones they were the World Cup champions. I just knew we were going to win, and I'm pleased that feeling came during the course of the game. So I remember banging my fist on the ground thinking, unbelievable, we're the world champions.
Kirk had an inspired day, leading his team from the front as John Kirwan put the result beyond doubt.
You saw it in the people, the joy that it gave the people, not so much the rugby team, because we were pretty tired afterwards, but the joy that the people got from us winning it. You know, it just made you feel good about yourself, that you'd done something for other people as well.
standing on the top of Everest and looked around, and the first thing you do after that is turn around and take a step down off the mountain. That thing that you've thought about since you were a little boy, it's over.
The first Rugby World Cup had been dominated by a team that would prove itself to be one of the great international sides of all time.
It was such a talented team, and it just emerged at the start of the World Cup, and of course it went on for 3 years and didn't lose a match, so it did prove to be one of the greatest All Black teams of all time, but it emerged at the beginning of the World Cup.